I'll have to cut that out. We're here again. I think today is going to be Throwback Cast Day. Throwback Webcast. Call me Ishmael. Yeah, that's the most famous, probably the most famous, most well-known opening line in any literary work. Call me Ishmael. From the famed Moby Dick, which was published in 1851. Today. Go figure. I don't know if you've read it. If you've ever read Melville's Moby Dick. Yeah, it's a healthy read. It reminds me of a Harry Potter book, but a lot deeper. Yeah, right out of, I think it was Looming. And did we know that Melville dedicated this in token of my admiration for his genius? It was inscribed to Nathaniel Hawthorne. Oh, fine writer also. House of the Seven Gables. Yeah. Loomings. That's the opening line. Call me Ishmael. Queequeg, the tattooed native, the great white whale. And if you have not read this book, it is a study on oceanography, on whales, on whale species and subspecies, and whatever, the phylum, your biology. It's got the entomology. It's almost like there are extracts. It's almost like The Lord of the Rings, but not fictitious. And that's the way Melville wrote this. He ties the story around these chapters where he'll talk about sperm whales. He'll talk about belugas, pilot whales, the blue whale, and there's, of course, some of the language has changed and some of the meanings. It's not an easy read. It's pretty difficult. It's pretty huge. And it's pretty interesting. And in its day, this became a pretty popular book. I think, where's my dubage, Ahab? Captain Ahab. Get the great white whale. I think in its day, this thing opened and was pretty big. It was popular, which, back then didn't really occur. It's a different world. Like, many of Shakespeare's plays were not popular. They were run at the Round or wherever. Took some time to really blow up. Ahab, where's my dubage? Really? Remember, and proof is in the pudding to this, because the reproductions, right? You have even current Hollywood stars like one of the Neeson brothers. Is it Liam? Whichever plays Thor. He was in some book. No, maybe that was about when they took over the ship from Captain Cook or whomever, right? The mutiny on board the HMS Bounty. Oh, another great book. Breadfruit. Freaking breadfruit. But I think there were a number of remakes of the great Moby Dick, the great white whale. And in fact, Tom and Jerry had a great remake. Dickie Moe. Dickie Moe. If you didn't see that as a kid, that was a wonderful story. Oh. Little Jerry had the HMS captain's hat. The little fun stuff. Awesome book. Been around forever. Sometimes it was a mandatory read. It's a big read. It's very informative. To the point where it is something of a biological study. Darwin, right? when he went down to Galapagos and dissected all the animals there. I think he was a little more formal, right? He actually produced nonfiction books that changed the understanding of evolution. You know, all of his natural selection. We went to Galapagos through Ecuador. Didn't see any whales, saw everything else. Took some tours to the outlying islands. Here comes our friend. He's gonna kill somebody on a mission. Grandpa Nearman used to say with all the Rottweilers, we've only owned Rottweilers, oh, killer dog, killer dog. Man, that dog is the furthest thing from a killer dog. Like, the wind in here from the fan will blow and one of her hairballs will flutter up in the corner and come out and she'll see it and spook. You're like, dude. But I will tell you this, had raccoons out in Colorado and they were eating the dog food in the garage. They were coming in through the dog door. And I had a plate that we used to slide in it. I didn't replace it, and it broke. And it was plastic, right? And I didn't replace it. And damn it, if I didn't have coons in there, they'd come in the garage door and eat the dog food. And we went in there one night because we heard some rustling around, and we'd seen a mother and her babies. And we trapped the coons in the garage, and she was not a nice dog. Her giant canine monster jaw. And I can recall snippets of it, because of course she pinned him in the corner. Her tail was sort of wagging, but then it would shoot out straight stiff, like, oh, I'm gonna kill you. And she did. She was pretty protective. We took care of our coon problem. Yeah. But yeah, we were in the Galapagos. Didn't see any whales, sperm whale, blue whale, any of the big whales. I think that's where they birth, right? After they comb the sea and eat and get fat, and then or something. It's some kind of warm water, and I'm pretty sure it's for birthing. But one of the outer islands, we took a tour, and it had a full skeleton that the animal had died. It had decomposed. It was consumed. It had stayed on that beach. It wasn't exposed to the water. And was bleached. The bones were bleached, and it looked like something you'd mount in a different time, I'm sure. If I were Darwin or on board the Beagle, I'd have grabbed that skeleton and mounted it and shown it in a museum. And the guide said it was a beluga whale, maybe a juvenile, because it was about 10 or 12 feet long. And I'm like, I need a piece of that beluga whale. I stood there and I'm like, how did I get this whole thing home? You know, and national conservation and all that, come on, I get it. But as a practice, as I've traveled, wherever I've traveled in the world, I've usually taken a rock, stupid, silly, Hawaiian rocks, wherever, lava, cool. So I have a fine Galapagos pebble or stone from a beach that's been rounded by, the eons of wash, and my beluga whalebone, which I thought was awesome. And you could still see some of the bleach. I mean, it was bleached white, and it was an awesome skeleton. So those were fond memories from the Galapagos with Darwinism, and I think Melville reflected some of that. And this damn book, hell of a book, and it remakes into movies, and the folklore of the giant oceans and the unknown and fear. A great white whale that would smash ships, I can't recall the 1970s or 80s version of that, but holy smoke, I think I was 15 or 16, and it ends with Ahab wrapped around the whale from a harpoon, of course, with, the trailing rope that got caught on his leg, dragged him into the water, and he went down with Moby Dick. And that was traumatic with me. Ew. I remember that thinking, easy peasy. We weren't water people. But an awesome story. And today it was published. 100 and odd years ago. 100 and a half years ago. Pretty epic. 200 years ago almost. But again, a pretty big read. Eesh. Well, enjoy it. What else happened in history? You had Nellie Bly go around the world in less than 80 days. 79 days. Look in 1889. Steamer, right? Horse and carriage. Whatever she did. Hiked, ran, was carried. Then that, of course, another fine book. Throwback Cast Day. Jules Verne, Around the World in 80 Days. Awesome. Phineas! Yeah. Or not Phineas, Phileas Fogg. I remember reading that as a kid. That was an awesome book. Adventure and people, right? All the diversity. I think my Aunt DC or somebody got me that. The giant book. Maybe, maybe not. Around the World in 80 Days. And Phileas Fogg, of course, fictitious, but still pretty awesome. And Jules Verne, pretty awesome. Above land, below land, underwater, whatever. That guy, what an imagination. That guy, up until, Ray Bradbury, he was probably the man. He could write some fabulous stuff, some fabulous fiction. And he had a great ability for detail and description. Man, those books seem, I don't know, for me there's something, but they seem gone, like a part of history that not visited. But we visit on occasion and we share them and we tell people to read them. And, like Oprah's book club. Enjoy. But they are lengthy reads. They're pretty big. And I don't know, kids. I think a lot of people still read, but I think a lot of people don't. Those iGeners, those post-1995 cell phone watchers, I don't know if they read any books. Maybe they do. I'm sure they read the internet. I'm sure they read Wikipedia. It's not like there isn't massive sources, Amazon and whatnot, where there's just gobs of info and you can't find it. Yeah, that's about it. Other than I think Apollo 12 today in 1969 or something. The moon. Another moonshot. The second moonshot, right? And I think that the only notable astronaut on there was Conrad. Although I'm sure at the time, if you knew the other two guys, they were probably pretty famous. No Neil Armstrong. You're no Neil Armstrong. I did not see the new Neil Armstrong movie. First Man. And I like Ryan Gosling. There's all this silly controversy over the flag. I don't know why it's not in there. The director said, look, that didn't seem to be a pivotal part of the story I was telling. The planting of the flag. And somebody snatched on it in the media, outside of the media, just in casual review. And that became the focal point of this awesome movie, right? Which, if you haven't watched the documentaries, if you didn't know who Neil Armstrong was, if you didn't really pay any attention to it, because there's a lot of detail. No, there's never been a moon landing. Conspiracy theorists. Like, what's his name? Rogan's buddy. 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. There's never been, we never left this planet. And I love the kid. He's a little cuckoo. A lot of people like that, right? I don't believe it. I didn't see it. I wasn't there. Clearly we've landed on the moon, clearly that was an epic day. Clearly, we aggressively attacked it again in 1969 with Apollo 12, and multiple missions thereafter where we fired up the little moon rover. You could drive around and had golf clubs. There were a lot of missions up there, right? Left all kinds of cool stuff, took lots of rock, did whatever. Epic. And now, future developments on the moon, on Mars, Japanese, the Russians. There seems like there's announcements. Russians are going to launch some deep space vehicle out of the solar system. Japanese said, I think, in 25 years they're going to be on Mars or on the moon. You got Musk, you got, Bezos, you got Branson, you got all these cats trying to promote space travel, which is awesome. Remember when the only thing was NASA? That was it. You go from Moby Dick and Jules Verne to NASA. Jules Verne to NASA, not too far. Moby Dick, tall sails of a tall ship to a tall ship into space. USS, HMS, right? That's awesome. And we're going to be there. And I don't think I'll ever make a space trip, but wouldn't that be fabulous? Pretty cool. Travel into outer space. Or even to take that parabolic plane ride, which it travels around the country. Or it did. I looked into it. And I don't recall the cost. $5,000, $2,000, $10,000, something like that. And it's a big 747 modified, so it's just an open bay in the back, like a cargo plane. They've removed the seats, they've removed any paneling or anything, and it flies to a specific altitude, and then it does these parabolic flight paths, right? And at the zenith of the upward path, the top, when you pass that and start to go down, that's when you experience the zero gravity. And it occurs for like a minute and a half, where you float. A lot of people have done that. A lot of famous people, you see their pictures or whatnot. That would be pretty cool. And it makes something like 10 passes like that. So all in, you're like, 10 minutes you're in zero grav. You're in weightlessness. I think like Stephen Hawking and some people did that. Pretty epic. Yeah, that would be awesome. And they prepare you for nausea and sickness. I mean, they're really weird. There's a lot of stuff happens in that, right? When your body doesn't have the stresses of gravity, pseudo stresses. But I don't think I'll ever do that. I don't think I'll ever, maybe. You're so compelled to do that, like skydiving or something else. And I don't think I'll do any space flight. I think the majority of us are, we are condemned to this planet for the near future. Maybe in 50 years we'll leave the planet. Who knows? Maybe not. They sure left the lands, right? Queequeg and Ishmael and Ahab. And those cats would get on those tall ships and travel around for 3, 4, 5 years. See ya! Look, man, we gotta make money. Gotta find whales. Gotta sell the blubber. Sell the whale blubber. The oil for the lamps, for everything, right? Till we almost whaled them all out. And now with the global warming, with the warming around the Arctic Circle, they've got the giant whales back up, the big sperm whales. Which, they're not the blue whales, but they're still huge, 50 feet or something. Like bigger than a couple buses. And those are the ones that have their heads full of that waxy, fatty substance, right? That they concatenate sound and make their noises, and they're very acute. And it expands or compresses with all of the water, so that, when you go to severe depths and you have multiple gravities on you, they live and they're fine. But apparently, in the colder water, that substance in the whale gets waxy and hardens. I mean, it kills them. So they were worried about a bunch of those whales up in the Arctic. The ice floes had melted, and these things have access. And they're worried that the ice flow's going to come back, trap the whales, and they're doomed. And on the one hand, I read the story and I'm like, because it was some oceanographer, some whale expert. I'm like, really? Dude, these are behemoths of the deep. You think they're that stupid that they're going to swim up there and they're not going to, the whales are smart. They have giant brains, right? They seem very communal. They communicate. They're maternal. They're paternal. They travel and live in groups, pods, whatever. I was like, God, but yeah, they're going to get stuck when it freezes. These giant animals that can swim down a mile. But maybe it freezes quickly. You know, man, those ice flows are insane. If you've watched Planet Earth, they actually go down with the briny, salty water. The ice flows travel down to the bottom of the shallows up there in the Arctic. Like a frozen arm, it grows as the ice melts into the water. It spreads on the seafloor. And for your slow-moving, animals like anemones and starfish and stuff, it traps them in the freeze. You watch those time lapses and you're like, baloney. Where's the special effects, dude? This is CGI. Crazy stuff. Cool shit that this planet, that life and nature do. But yeah, don't know. Hope the whales live. I'm sure they'll live. Remember all the beachings, all the giant whales, and I've always contemplated that with the sonar and all the shit we do underwater and military. That had to be us. Dude, if you've never heard those sonar blasts or whatnot, they're loud as fuck. And they rip through water. Speed of sound much faster than water. Ruptures the brain of those things. They don't even know where they're going. Right into land. All of them are messed up. They smoke the whole pod. See, Rika understands that too. She's like, that's her talking to me. I would like to see the little dog outside, or that funny man, or the guy that's working on the cable, or that man with the weed eater. Can you please let me out so that I can entertain myself with my doggy duties. Doggy duty. Yeah. So, Moby Dick, right? And as usual, I looked at the top sites, the top browsing sites on the web. And your FANG are your top 3 or 4 or 5. And then 6, 7, and 8 are porn sites like Pornhub or, X videos or right in a row. The most browsed sites, the most traffic, the most hits. I think it's stated and known, but it's never really talked about. God, multi-billion-dollar industry. People making money everywhere. Everyone visiting them. There's no differentiation from, social class, employment position, political affiliation, sexual affiliation, religious affiliation. I think everybody watches porn. Everybody's going to those sites. And that's a generality. I'm sure many people do not, but a huge number of people on this planet are. And those sites are huge. Which is crazy. Hopefully we're making a lot of money off of it. Somebody's making a lot of money off of it. And that person is sharing the money or investing the money back in, I don't know, you want to be an idealist. I don't think any of that's happening. I think they have that server farm, like for Azure or for the Google Cloud. And it's got all the lights on it. Yeah. Giant racks that go for a row. And all the cabling is like non-existent. Goes right up into all your ceiling runs. You look in there and you're like, what is this place? Oh, that's Pornhub. Sure it is. If they're smart, which they are. So that's going on, right? The world news. The market said they were going to open mixed or something. I think they slightly did. I think they were mildly up today, marginally up maybe, unlike last week where they were massively down. So maybe some good response, maybe some calm, maybe some semi-happy traders or investors or, retirees. So that's good. Lewinsky's back in the news. I think there's a 6-part series or something with one of the news stations that are again visiting all the information, and she talks about the famed blue dress again and her relationship with Bill and what happened and blah blah blah. Some things never die. And I don't know if they should. Clinton seemed to want to stay in the limelight, Hillary especially. Hillary in 2020, Beto in 2020. We can't finish the election counts down here, the votes. The voting machines overheat and fail. Got to restart them. If it's extended for any county, it's extended for every county. I think there's 67 counties in Florida. I don't know when it's going to finish. I've seen voting senior managers that manage the voting process in other states and down here. They've been interviewed, and I think a statement was when these recounts occur, 99% of the time, whoever was in the lead when the recount was requested, they usually win. And is Gillum going to concede? Is Rick Scott going to drop the lawsuits? Is whatever that guy's name, his opponent, is he going to be alive still? Ugh. I heard a statement that he read. It sounded like an effort to speak and the rights of the people so that each vote must be tabulated. Time to go, man. No recount. You're done. And they've stated that Trump's gone into a shell. He's very disappointed over these elections. He's shirking his daily presidential duties, his hourly. Don't know. Don't care. I'm sure it'll work its way out. Right? Just like, not just like, who knows? What else is going on in the great machine of the news these days? Billy Crystal won some award at the Friars Club in New York. De Niro, of course, they're both New Yorkers. De Niro opened up for him, slandered the president again after, I guess he was Saturday Night Live, he was Mueller, or whatever role he's played. Yeah. So, stated maybe Billy Crystal should run, but maybe not. We're more suited to have Billy Crystal make us laugh as opposed to waste his talents in the White House. The fires keep raging. There's more dead out there in California. Whew! Burning in a couple places. Bad news. A lot of impact. A lot of lost lives. I think there's 200 missing. Or in the 40s, 50s, 60s for deceased. Easy peasy. That's terrible, man. In modern times, in neighborhoods, a landslide's one thing, or remember the flood that blew right through central California, Santa Barbara or wherever it was, all that water, and it came right down. And you understand that if you've ever been out there and visited it, California's a weird land. There's a lot of it that's, hilly and rocky and undulates, and it's not stable. It's not like, solid land. I mean, it's solid land where you think you can build a house and you can walk around and hike, but when you get pretty big natural occurrences, you get these giant, it pushed right through the neighborhoods and sucked people and animals out. I get that, but a fire? You know, and we told people they needed to evacuate, and they didn't evacuate. The Kardashians hired like a private firefighting team. I don't know. You know, the smoke jumpers or somebody. They, dropped in, started fighting. I think I told this to Jeffrey yesterday. Those cats are brilliant. They don't mess around. And yeah, Kardashians. I don't like the Kardashians. I think it's reality crap. But man, took their millions of dollars. How much it costs to hire a private team? 20 people, 10 people, $2 million. Oh, get them on the frickin' plane. Let's go. Have them drop in. Have them drop in, form a perimeter around the house. I want them to remove. And the mother seems to be brilliant, man, managing and driving. You know? She married Kardashian. So, that's a pretty crazy story. And then I think they helped the local police and the firefighters. They passed out food. They assisted where they could, So, reality brings people back. And it actually shows true colors, I think most of the time. And I think there's been a lot of that out there. The fantasy gets crushed real quick by smoke and fire and heat. You're not in a movie now, man. And some of those people where you have like the underground stories or you see the interviews and they're like, those are good people, that's real people. They show up big. Like J.J. Watt down there in Texas and just donated $10-12 million to all the, flood and hurricane or whatever victims. Just an awesome dude. Call him whatever for football. He's an animal and it's awesome to see and he's definitely elite. But he's also a wonderful, grounded, solid person that gives back and understands how blessed he is and understands the quality of living and the value of life. And, that's cool stuff. It sucks because you like to see those stories, but it's always in strife. But that's what defines us. When people get crushed, what's the response? Is everybody rolled over and died, or, we stand back up, which is awesome to see. And sometimes surprising, and gives you hope, and gives you, a refreshed belief in the human race. Because often nowadays, all you hear is the noise. So that's what's going on with some of the news. At this time, I think that's all I got to cover. I think Tijuana, they have the caravan arriving. Wonder what's going to happen. Maybe something, maybe nothing. I'm sure the news will be down there. I'm sure people will start approaching the border, climbing fences, requesting asylum, doing whatever. I sure hope we have the tent cities and we have the assistance and the personnel to help, not just 15,000 National Guardsmen holding rifles. Don't know what will happen with that. I think it'll happen relatively soon here. Climbing the border fence or whatever. Yeah, so on the fight front news, I guess Dana White's made a few announcements, and Henry Cejudo is going to fight TJ Dillashaw. And they're going to fight in the flyweight division, of which, if you are in tune, Henry Cejudo beat Demetrius Johnson, Mighty Mouse, DJ, for the title. In a 5-rounder that when the fight was going on, when I was watching it with my son, Joe Rogan, Daniel Cormier, and maybe Dominic Cruz, Dom, were the commentators, color commentators. And of course, DC, Daniel Cormier, he always sides with the wrestlers. For the most part, he's somewhat objective, but he likes the wrestlers. He's acute with his view of the wrestlers, their attacks in the ring. I think he's slightly biased to what that's worth. And the way I viewed it is, the champion is the champion, just like in boxing or any combat sport, unless they are beaten. If it's a draw, if it's close, if there's some real trades, the champ should probably stay the champ. They fought well, the competitor came up, they really tried hard. You know, like when John Jones beat Gustafsson. Great fight, but Jones got his cracks in. Jones won his own rounds. To me, it looked like DJ won his own rounds. You know, I'm not saying DJ's a stand-up fighter, but he's got multiple skills. He's got jiu-jitsu, he's got ground and pound, he's got stand-up strikes, both with his hands, with his feet. He's wily with his movements. He can do them standing up, he can do them sitting down, he can do them on the ground. He's very, very agile and fast. Nobody's as fast as he is in that weight class. John Dodson, maybe. That John Dodson fight was close. Dodson was a little flying man, just like DJ. Years back, and I think there was a Dodson 1 and a Dodson 2, and DJ won both of them. And I think the second one, DJ wasn't prepared for it. He was better prepared for it than he was the first one. I think he beat him up even a little better. But this was Cejudo too. Cejudo came in, he looked great. Took DJ down probably better or more aggressively or more completely or in general more than anyone has. Maybe won a couple rounds when that thing was going on. These guys were like, oh yeah, I've got this two rounds to none for Cejudo. And I was like, eh? And I don't know if I disagreed with it. I was disappointed. I think DJ didn't dominate like he normally does. I think Cejudo was good. It clearly wasn't like, oh yeah, Cejudo won that hands down. Didn't appear that way to me. It appeared that way to the three color commentators, as I stated. And they felt, and even Rogan, they felt that Cejudo had won. And when, Buffer came in, they raised his hand. And I was like, eh. But DJ's never gotten his comeuppance because he's a little man. And in general, the UFC, the fight game just they don't cater to the little folks. The women, jeez. Dive! The women, they have. Joanna Champion, she's sort of risen up. A brutal Pollock. That just was throwing laser jabs and lighting up faces. She got some notoriety. I don't know why Demetrius didn't. I really don't. I don't know why Tyron Woodley really didn't. Tyron bitches and moans that he doesn't get the pay, he doesn't have the draw. Tyron doesn't really have a personality. Demetrius Johnson has the greatest personality. Maybe that's why. Maybe he wasn't a dick about it with his contracts and the rest of this crap. Pressuring the Fertittas, pressuring Dana, pressuring Fox. He's got a wife and kids. He's a family dude. He's just all around awesome. I watched the 30 for 30 on Phil Cower. Dude, if you haven't seen that, holy crap, that guy is an anomaly. He's a throwback. College football, pro football, into coaching. Matt Schottenheimer was like freaking floored at the guy's skills. Schottenheimer gave him an offer, 15 years in Pittsburgh. And then the personal story behind him. And then he lost his wife. I mean, you see this thing and you're like, I didn't know. That guy is the real deal. And all these people that talk about it, and these sports analysts and whatnot, some many more acute than others, probably knew Cower and knew what he was and knew of him and knew his background story and knew his, real experiences to an intimate level. And then you can go, oh, okay, now I see why that worked. But if you don't know it, and that guy just owned Pittsburgh. He ran that joint. He got them to the playoffs 7, 8, 10 years. And then that 15th season, he won the Super Bowl. There was no magic to that. There's no magic to Belichick. There's no magic. It's brutality. It's hard work. It's brilliance. It's tenacity. All the fundamentals that are mentioned all the time. And that guy, Cowher, had a ton of love and respect and connection with those players. Treated them like family. They all said that. They said the guy was in tune. He knew when you weren't good or you asked you a question. And he'd treat you like part of the family. Family's playing football. How you feeling? You okay? All right, well, you want us to sit out this next series? What's going on? Where's your head? Don't let that bother you. Just the real deal. Which is why that team flourished. And Bettis with the bus was saying, he goes, that dude, somebody extraordinary. That's awesome to see. But that's how DJ is. Extraordinary as a fighter, as a combat fighter. Awesome. And Cejudo's an Olympian, right? You're elites like Cormier and the rest of these guys. And I don't know if Cejudo outright won that fight. Doesn't matter. But Dillashaw's going to drop from 35, 45 down to 25 to fight this thing. This flyweight thing. And we all know that DJ, Mighty Mouse, is going to 1FC, whatever it is. He's gone. They traded him. And White said, they pressed him again. Dana, what are you doing? 2 years now it's been talk. What are you doing with the flyweight division? What are you doing with the little guys? Ultimately, they don't make the money. They're not the draw. They're a money loss. They're a pain in the ass. They're a distraction in the UFC. What are you going to do with them? You're going to get rid of them? And we're thinking of something. We're doing something. So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen with the flyweights? Clearly, it's gone well for the women. Don't know what's going to happen with the men's. Maybe they'll make the 165 weight class, right above middle or whatever it is, or right below. Who the hell knows? And they'll get rid of flyweights. Don't know, but I'm sure it'll come. But now we've got Cejudo fighting Dillashaw, and Jeffrey and I, we got to do a fight companion. We sat here and talked about it, and I wish I was filming it. Cejudo is your, Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's your Daniel Cormier. He's your world-class wrestler. Not as great with the striking, but clearly becoming more rounded with striking with BJJ, with mixed martial arts. And that was shown in this fight with DJ. I don't recall, DJ being as stifled as much in any fight that he's ever had. Because of that, they gave Cejudo the win. That's it. 2 years later, trained like a fiend, came in and pound for pound measured him. And they gave it to Henry. And he looks exceptional, and he's got the mind of, that iron mind and iron will. But Dillashaw's a freak. He adopted that that Dominic Cruz strange gait and movement for fighting, where they move side to side, and then they do angles and stop and look and switch their body. And as a striker, if you're on your feet, you never get the timing and can pinpoint where you're throwing those shots. And he's coming at you at different angles, and he's got good attacks that come with that. Elbows and takedowns. He'll grab your calf or your foot or your leg. And body shots. Just a fiend. I mean, what he did to Cody Garbrandt, and it's disappointing because I loved Team Alpha Male. I loved the little guys. But as usual, they got a little big for their britches. Uriah Faber and the crew. And Cody Garbrandt, I mean, that kid just some street cred and came from Golden Glove and fighting and killing people, punching their faces off. And, he's got the ink that goes up to his chin, Conor McGregor-esque. Not the giant gorilla, but like the crown ink. And man, he talked it and then he walked it. And he has single punch, one punch knockout power. Garbrandt, he's got dynamite in his little fists. And he showed that in that first round in the first fight against Dillashaw. Dropped him on his butt. And Cody responded. Cody hasn't taken a lot of shots to the jaw. He's had a couple tough fights, but not where he got his head pummeled in. A little bloody with Henan Barrow or whomever, right? But not where he got beat senseless and you lose that nerve behind your chin. And I think he's got a great chin to begin with. And man, oh man, he smoked him in that first fight, and you're like, whoa. But that second fight, when he destroys him and then gets up in his face, and Garbrandt gets up wobbly, because that kid, you got to kill him so that he never gets up. He's, the Diaz, your Chris Lieben, some of those guys that unless they're unconscious and one foot in the grave, they're getting back up. The ref's got to hold them and say, you're done. And he struggles to get back up, and he wobbles, and Dillashaw's stiff. He's erect because Garbrandt's taller. Right in his face, screaming at him. Ah! And they're side by side with the camera shooting across the cage. And Big Herb Dean or whoever's right there, because he broke it up. He separated them. And Garbrandt came back at that dude, or Dillashaw came back at that dude and let him know. And poor Garbrandt, he doesn't know what planet he's on. He's looking around and he's got this weird look on his face, like, what? Why is someone screaming at me? What's happening? TJ stamped finality on that. And there never needs to be a rematch there. Yeah, and Garbrandt can come and win. He can, like anybody. Like we were talking George St. Pierre and Matt Serra with the shot. But Dillashaw and his buddy Dwayne Bang Ludwig up in Colorado, and all the bad blood when he left Team Alpha Male and followed Ludwig, because that guy's a striking genius. And Uriah and all those guys, you're part of the team and the family, and they've got a great team and a family component out there. They go to each other's houses, they go to Uriah's house, they have cookouts, they watch their children, their wives interact. They are a family. But if you're not part of that, you can't be ostracized. And that's where these things get queered. They go wrong. They're sort of mental. Cody didn't do that, dude. Cody was interested in the championship, yo. And that kid owns it. Dude, those fights with Head and Barrow, he mangled that dude. Dude that hadn't been beaten in 10 years or whatever. Novo União, the Brazilian monsters. They go full out all day, every day, pounding each other. Those guys were revered in training. They're like, don't spar with Barrow. He'll destroy you. You may never fight again. I think they've sort of changed that. That was the Brazilian way. You trained like you fought. 100%. And he mangled that dude. That was awesome. God. Dive. Holy, I gotta turn off all the quasi-electronic notifications. But fabulous. So, props to TJ Dillashaw. Props to Dwayne Ludwig. Bang. Fastest knockout in UFC history. Freak of a coach. And I don't know what's gonna happen with Cejudo. Cejudo will clearly be able to take him down. Dillashaw's got good takedown defense. He can get back to his feet. I don't know if he's ever been smothered by an Olympic world-class wrestler, but Barrow and these guys with their kicks and their BJJ and their submissions, those guys were great takedown artists. Don't know. I hope Henry doesn't stand on the feet and throw. That will not. Dude, DJ's a little dude, walks around pretty small, a little bit heavier, maybe 135. Dillashaw walks around 145, 150. Big little dude. Sucks weight to get down to 25. You're getting something coming at you that can throw some power. And he doesn't have that Cody Garbrandt knockout power, but he's got dynamite in his fists, and he showed that. He showed that against Garbrandt. Caught him in the jaw, went right into the sitting position. Cody didn't know where the fuck he was. Dillashaw's a fiend. That's going to be a great fight. And maybe that's why Dana White says, I'm getting rid of the flyweight division. We're going to work on these guys. That's where the juice and the action is. And when you looked at like Roberto Duran and, all those great fights from boxing back in the day. Oh, with the little guys, Sugar Ray. All those little dudes, right? Man, were they fast. Man, could they throw. Man, did they have accuracy. Exciting crap. And it's not the Mike Tyson. And go right through a brick wall, which is equally as exciting. but completely different. Maybe that's where Dana's going to put the focus. I don't know, but it's good stuff. It's exciting. I'm more excited about the fight game than I've been. I was worried about the direction of the UFC, the WWE, and all this crap and where it was going. And it seems like maybe it's got some traction, or maybe it's coming back to center. Oh, now you got, the Tito and the Iceman fight. Ugh. Who knows? Who knows? There's some big fights that are coming up. December 8th, end of year. What's the big fight coming up December 8th, dude? It's not this one. But I looked at that the other day with Jeffrey, I think, and I was like, oh, that's going to be insane. I don't want to see the story. What is this? They got a new webpage for the UFC out. Ah! Where is this crap? Where's the main page? Where's home? Oh, it's got a drop down. All right, there you go. They juiced up the new UFC page. Used to just pop up with the frame. Now it's got all kinds of media moving and whatnot. So if I look at all events and we see what's coming up here. Oh, December 8th, man. It's got Ortega against Holloway. Or Tony Ferguson. That's it's UFC 231. Live on pay-per-view. And then it's got the Joanna champion against the Russian. So, gonna be awesome shit. That's going to be another legendary fight. I guarantee it. Here's the thing I worry about that one. Ortega's a fiend. This fight's been looking to occur. Ortega has increasingly. I remember seeing Brian Ortega come out, and I'm like, this guy with his hair, and he's a big dude. He's got a wide back. He sucks weight. He's thick. But he didn't have the skill. He clearly, in the last year, 2 years, year and a half, has upped his training and his game fiendishly. And now you got, Max Holloway, the crazy Hawaiian. And I don't know, we'll have to see how that fight should be sick. And I don't recall the injuries, if there were hand injuries or what surgeries happened, but Holloway's been hurt and the fights were canceled or changed. So is he going to be in top form? Dude, if he doesn't go into that fucking Brian Ortega fight in top form, I don't know. Ortega's a crippler. He's a strangler. He's a murderer. He's got strikes. He's got submissions. He's got stand-up. He's got ground game. He's got ground and pound. He's got cage grind. He can do anything. He's got cool braided hair. He's got a mellow personality. Then he just murders you. He murks you. That's going to be an insane fight. So, just like always, man, the Fox team and Dana have lined this end of year up pretty ugly. It's going to be pretty sick. Yeah. So I'm excited about that. We'll have to see how that all goes. Stuff happening in the game.